Welcome to Blender Frenzy. Justin here with more gray hair than ever. But today we're going to be starting a new series on the skull, but a Terminator skull. So this video is all about setting up the workspace and how to create something that looks like this. Now, we're not going to be using, I'm not going to be using in this series these two images. I'm going to actually be looking for a couple images online. I'm going to show you how I originally did it when I made the skull initially, the very first one that I made. But I can't distribute those because they're not mine, so I just made my own. Here's the skull from the Blendinator course that I just made. But I've got the viewport set up. If we go to either of the cameras, here, this is front and this is the side. I have everything lined up for you along with the cameras and the images. We even have a split layout here so we can work at the same time, adding the geometry, seeing it in both sides at the same time. This blend file is for free on my website in two ways. So the first way is, well, actually first, if you don't want to model the skull and you just want it, you can go to the Blendinator course where you can get started with head tracking VFX in Blender. Here's the full course released, and then you get the model right there. You don't have to model it. And then you can create these awesome results. I'll teach you how to film your shot, to export it as an image sequence, and then track your head, add the skull to it, add some wounds, paint on wounds anywhere you want. And then we also go over the environment creation, just a rudimentary environment creation. And here is the result that you can achieve. It's a little blurry because I had to make the GIF a little bit smaller. It's on discount now if you want that, but if you don't want to buy the course, then you can become a Frenzy by signing up for a member level. Now, the Frenzy freebies, you get all the free stuff for my YouTube tutorials. You can sign up. But if you don't want to become a member, I know a lot of people have said, why do I have to sign up for free downloads? And I get that. So I am now starting to add a freebies single downloads. You can just click here. And then this is the only one I have so far. It's a work in progress. But you can just click on that, and then you can just add it to the cart for $0. Or if you want to give me a tip to say thank you, you can pay what you want. You can also go to it straight from the homepage here, freebies, single downloads, right there. Oh, and look at this. We got to do one more thing. A couple of years ago, I created this tutorial, Old Man Justin, Turning Myself Old, where I did a lot of compositing on my hair to make it look white. That is not the color of my hair at that time. But little did I know, I only had to wait a couple of years for it to go gray naturally. No compositing needed. So if you don't want to do compositing on hair to make it gray, just wait a few years. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get the images that I'm going to use for this tutorial. And I just did a search for Terminator skull for images, and we get lots of different images here. This one is actually a really good one to use. Especially if you wanted to do more like the neck and the hoses here. It's also a little bit more defined. This isn't the one that I used though, but what I'm looking for is front and side. So the one that I'm going to use for the front, I think this one is the best. So I like this one, and then the one that I'm going to use for the side, I even thought about changing it and doing this one. This one's actually really good because you can actually really see like a lot of the definitions of the side here, as opposed to like a lot of these are very, stylized because they're showing things off. I can't get really anything on the straight profile or straight on. Like this one, straight on looks pretty good, except for anytime you see it straight on, usually it's like the head is tilted down like this to make it, look more menacing. Yeah, see, same thing here and here. The one that I'm going to use for the side, where did that go? This one here. I thought this one was the best one. Got a lot of defining features, looks really cool, except for it's really shiny in a lot of places, so that kind of does obscure things over here. Either way, what I did was just take the snipping tool in Windows and just take a screenshot of those two pictures, just like this. They're only going to be used for reference, and that's why I can't distribute them in my blend file. But they're just used for reference, and then also just for some inspiration to project onto our object, just to kind of get a sense of how it's going to be so we can kind of get some motivation for the end product. And so you can see I snipped these, and then I got a couple of other ones here just as reference or backup. Looks kind of nice. This one is really detailed. This one I downloaded, I think I'm going to use for the teeth. I like the color there. I may or may not use that. I didn't use that in the other one. Anyway, so these two, and what I'm going to do is open up a new instance of Blender. We're just going to take everything, delete. I'm actually not going to click and drag them in because I don't want them as references yet. What we need to do is we need to line these up. So, all right, so I added the screencast keys. I'm using Blender 4.2.2, so hopefully these are going to be working okay. Add in an image and then mesh plane, which now comes with Blender, I think 4.2 automatically. You don't have to download anything. You may have to enable it in the preferences, or maybe not. I think it just works straight away. So add image, mesh plane, navigate to your screenshots, and then before I select them, I'm going to set the material shader to emission. Strength is 1. Dithered, I'm going to change to blended. And then I think everything else is fine. I'm just going to select this one and then shift select this one. Import images as planes. Number 7 to go on top mode. Let's go into material preview mode here. Okay, so I want to line everything up with reference to the front. So I like the way the front is laid out. So I'm going to take this one and move it over here. Just grab that on the X. And then we're going to manipulate this one to match this. And the way we're going to do that is to add in another mesh plane and go to the object properties here. Go down to viewport display, display as wire, edit mode, and then for the overlays, I'm going to click this button and uncheck faces just so that we can see everything in here. And I'm just going to take this and line it, scale it to be nicely positioned like that. And then I'm just going to make some loop cuts. So we're going to make some loop cuts where the eyes are and just different features on the face. Take this loop cut and put that right in the middle of the eyes. Oh, I accidentally hit the wrong button, but this way I can just press GG and slide that. Let's go into edge select mode. There we go. Make another loop cut. I'm going to make one for the bottom here where the brow is furrowed. And then I'm going to do one for the top. This brow comes up. This is the top of that. And then I guess just the top of the head. Then we have, I'll do it for the bottom of the eyes. And you know, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to double G and move that down to the top of the eye right there where the corner top meets that. I think that might be better. And then let's do one at the bottom of the nose where this little spiky thing comes out. And then do one in the middle of the teeth and then do one here. So there we go. So now we have all of the points of interest here. So we don't have to do much. Let's tab back out into object mode. Let's go in here. And the first thing we want to do is just scale this up accordingly so that the chin and the top of the head are lined up. And that's actually already starting to line most of everything else up here. So now I'm going to tab into edit mode here and then do a loop cut here. And I think I'm just going to put up somewhere, set it here. I'm just going to press G and then Y because we're looking down on the Z axis. If you were looking at it straight in the front, it would be G and Z to pull it down. Just depends on how you have these oriented. So I'm going to pull this down and I'm trying to, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm trying to match where the top of the brow is. So just grab Y and something like that. And you can kind of see that now the eyeball is off. But once we pull other things up here, we'll do another loop cut. But I do actually like, it looks like the teeth line up pretty well and the nose already. So I like that. So I'm going to go above the nose for this one. I want to do another one and do it like just maybe in the middle of those two here. Because this is going to be an anchor point, and then I'll take this one, G, and grab that up. And you can see that kind of starts to stretch that. I'm pulling that up, just looking at the eyeball now, wanting the eyeball to be right in the middle. Let's go back to our plane here and make another loop cut or the cheek is, the bottom of the cheek. See, that lines up pretty well right now, so that's good. So then let's go back. The only other thing I think I need to do, make another loop cut going up and down here, go into vertex select and select one of these. Oh, that's right. Let's hide the plane here for a second. I'm getting confused. And then another loop cut here going up and down to create an anchor point here with the eye. The reason is because I want to take this point and I want to move this one down. Enable that plane again. I'm going to move that one down just ever so slightly. Well, actually, we want to also make another loop cut here to bring these down. Actually, let's just do the whole thing. Select that whole line here and bring this down also. It looks kind of weird. It looks like it's really stretching that. But what I'm trying to do is match the top of the eye here, the line here, which that matches there. And then, oh yeah, we gotta stretch it out on the bottom too. So another loop cut. So we're adding quite a bit of loop cuts, but that's okay. Bring this down to, well, that's gonna stretch that too much. Okay, let's get rid of that loop cut. I'm just gonna undo that. Let's select this one again, top of the nose. Okay, yeah, this needs to go down. That needs to go down anyway. So let's bring that down where the bottom of the eye would go. And that matches the top of the nose a little bit better there as well. And the bottom still matches. Again, let's get out of there, select our plane, and we can actually even turn off the grid so that we can just see these lines here. Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. Okay, let's grab this one, pull that up. There we go. Oh, but the eye wants to stay down, but we can maybe bring just this point up so that it matches a little bit better. Yeah, that looks all right. Okay, so now we've got everything lined up. Oh, and I haven't saved it yet, so don't forget to save. Okay, so we don't need to see the plane. Let's also make our restriction toggles visible here. Don't want anything with the plane. So what we want to do right now is render these out so that we can then re-import them in as references. Add in a camera. The size of this image, let's see, what was the size of this image? Let's go to the rendering and go to skull front 1 and check the image. Here we go. There we go. 712 by 898. So that's what we want to set our resolution to. 712 by 898. Okay, but we need to match it to our view right now. So with our camera selected, Control Alt 0, and then wherever our current view is, it matches with that. And then we need to go to our camera properties, go to perspective and change that to orthographic. And then I'm going to type the orthographic scale as 1. If we're using orthographic scale, 1 should match the 712 by 898. And if I just hover over here, press G to grab, I can just match it exactly with the image. But I don't want this T800 endoskeleton words over here. And I want the middle of the image to be in the nose. So I'm just going to take this. Actually, we need to probably go into top mode again and take both of these. Just shift select those and then grab on the X and move that over. I'm going to use the grid again. It's a little bit off because I think it needs to maybe be rotated a bit. I'm just going to select this one and rotate it just ever so slightly, just to make sure that that's going straight down the middle. Now go back into camera mode, and I'm just going to press G. With our camera selected, we need to make sure that's selected. G to grab, and then this is where I actually will change the orthographic scale even more because we're cutting this part out, which I didn't do initially, but I am going to do that now. Okay, so 0.94 looks to be about right, and I like this location right here. So I'm just going to keep it there. Let's save it. Come back over to rendering here. And let's go to render result, and I'm going to press F12 and render it. Now our color space isn't right, so let's go to render color management, and then from AGX I'm going to click standard. And then let's go ahead and save it as, and then I'll say skull front, and then I'll do _ref01 just to make it different. So we'll use this for the reference. JPEG 100%, save as. Okay, so now we got to do the next one. And you can either move this one or you can duplicate it. I guess I'm going to try something new. I'll duplicate this. And then just on the X, move this over here. And to switch between them, you can just select these green little camera buttons. So I'm going to switch to that one. GX to grab it on the X. And it should line up perfectly because we're not moving it up and down at all. So just make sure it's kind of in the middle. Now we're obviously not seeing the back of the head, but that's because that wasn't in the original picture, but that's okay. And by the way, if you're just seeing all black, just make sure your plane is not enabled in the render, because if you enable that, then it's going to cover over everything. Also, I should have also mentioned this earlier, but if you're not seeing anything here still and it's black, always make sure that we are in our output. Under post-processing, we are unchecking sequencer. It didn't matter in this instance because we don't actually have anything to do with the sequencer yet. I haven't imported anything. I haven't set up a workspace for the sequencer. So it's fine, but if that's checked, it will override anything else. If you have a blank sequencer, it's going to be a blank image. So I'm just going to uncheck composite issue, but you don't need that either. So we already got that. Let's go to slot 2, F12. And by the way, a new window might pop up for you when you press F12. The reason it's not for me is because in my preferences, under interface, temporary editors, I have this set render in keep user interface. By default, new window. So that's why. It won't pop up a new window in this instance. It'll just keep the interface we have here. And since I'm on our render result, that's what it's showing. Okay, so we are going to save this out as skull side, and then we'll do underscore ref01, JPEG, 100%. All right, and make sure you save your work. And you might want to save this as like reference in case you ever need to come back here and change any of these. You have it all set up and ready to go for re-exporting any sort of reference images. So why did we just do all this? Well, let's open up another instance of Blender. Okay, select everything and delete. Okay, so now we have our reference images. And this time what we can do is just drag these in. But first, let's go into front mode by pressing 1. And then let's take our reference image and just drag it in here. And then when it's in here, I'm going to click it, Shift S, selection to cursor. You can also Shift S, cursor to world origin right before that if it's not. Okay, then I'm going to press 3 to go into side mode, get our side reference image, which I actually did forget to flip. So I'm just going to go back here to our rendering, and I'm just going to open it here. So let's do skull side reference. And now that I've imported it, I can't do it with the render result because if I go to image transform, these are all grayed out, but I can do it with an image. So the reference, if I have this, and then transform, we can just do flip horizontally. There we go. And then I'm just going to save because it'll override it if I just do that. Now back here, it's been flipped. So back to our other blend file, click and drag. There we go. And then click it, Shift S and selection to cursor. Okay, so now we have two identical images, which we can't see in our perspective because if we select one and go to the image tab, pull this out, we need to click perspective. Same thing with this one. But now you can see they're perfectly lined up with each other. We don't really have to do anything else, at least not a lot of manipulation. We will move this one a little bit, but other than that, the eyes, the nose, the teeth, the whole face should line up. I'm going to click default for both of these. There we go. So then I will take this one and then I'll press GY to move that back. And as you can see, as I'm moving this back, you can see everything lines up. The teeth are lining up just fine there. And the eyes like that. And this is super important because when we go back and forth between the two images for the front and the side, they need to line up at least as best as possible. Now again, with the blend file that you can download on my website for free, everything's lined up for you and it is the same exact skull. So we're not using two different skulls like this. So everything that you do, everything that you model will be modeled to the same skull front and side. Okay, so let's go into side mode. This will be there. That's good. And that's there. That's fine. Okay, so we need to do a few more things to make our projections and UV maps line up properly. And that is we need to add in a couple cameras. So Control Alt 0. Of course, we need to make this output. What was that? 712 by 898. And then we also need to make this orthographic 1. Okay, so our scale of 1 is not the right scale. That's okay. We will adjust it accordingly. Looks like maybe it's going to be 5. So if you this is a tip too, if you like scale something just manually sliding it, and you kind of get it to maybe where it looks kind of right, you can look at the number, and if it's like 4.9, it's probably 5. And so we can G to grab and move this over like that. And all I'm going to do is go to one of these corners and make sure that the corner matches. Okay. Let's see, how far back is that actually for the camera? Let's open up this and go to our item. Our location on the Y is negative 6.5. Let's just do negative 6. Is that too close? No, I think that's fine. So now I'm just going to duplicate this and then change the pivot point to 3D cursor, rotate on the Z 90, and that should get us to exactly where we need to be, except for it doesn't, because it's, we need to move it back a little bit more. But here's one way we can do that. If we go to Edit Preferences, Add-ons, Copy, the Copy Attributes menu, if you have that checked, and if you don't see this, you may have to actually externally download it or get the extension, but I have it on. And then what I can do is take the camera and then Shift select the reference image, then Control C, and it will bring up this Copy Attributes menu. And then I can just say Copy Location, and it will slap that on to the exact location. Now I can just take the camera, and then on the X-axis I can go 6 out like this. So now it's 6 out like this is, but it's lined up with the side. If I press 0, we have to change our camera, and there we go. It should be lined up exactly. Okay, let's also parent these. So I'm going to parent this one. Just select this one, Shift select the camera, and then Control P to parent. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, Control P, and that way we can shut the restriction toggle. So if I do these restriction toggles here, I like to have these 4. If I open these up, uncheck the selection for the empties, which are our references, so I don't accidentally move those. If I do want to move them, I can move the cameras. And that way, if I do move them and I need to move them, the cameras are perfectly still aligned with them. Okay, so we are almost done. Let's see what we have here. So we've got this camera lined up with the front, this camera lined up with the side. And I want to keep this layout for just a single preview. I'm going to right click and duplicate and then call this one split so that we split this one. Before I split it though, I want to make all of my changes. So in here, I'm going to get rid of the navigate. I'm going to press T so that we don't see this toolbar over here. And I don't need to see this text option here. It's just going to get in the way. So we're going to uncheck the text info there. I don't want to see the cameras in the view. So let's go here and then uncheck the eye for the camera here. And then for the viewport, each of these, now I can't select them there, I can only select them in here. So I'll take this empty, and then in the properties, we want to uncheck our perspective again. So now we can't see them in the perspective. So that means when we're out here, all we see is the perspective, but actually before I do that, sorry, I want to move them. The great thing about orthographic view is that no matter how I move these, and I'll have to enable these again, I'm going to grab that on the Y, so GY and then 6. We're going to move that back 6, or maybe 10, GY 10, just to get them out of our way. And then this one, same thing, GX negative 10, that way. There we go. Make sure you're saving, but you can see that even if I still go into the camera mode, it still lines up with the camera. No matter how much of a gap between the camera and the objects are, it's always going to look the same because there's no perspective. And that's in orthographic view. Of course, in perspective view, it does. So let's check our side as well. There we go. And so now we have this setup, which is nice, but we want to change the perspective here on these and then uncheck the selection. Okay, and let's bring this back down to median point for the pivot point. Make sure none of these are checked, and let's make sure vertex is selected here. Before we split the view, we just want to make sure all of our options are how we want them, because if not, then we'll have to do it twice. So I think we're good now. I can split this over here, and you can see how it duplicates the view. And so if I hover over here, press 0, I want this to be my front. So in order to do that, press N, go to View, and then Local Camera. For this one, we want camera, this camera, but I'm going to rename it first. So we'll call this Cam Front. This one will be Cam Side. So right now it's on Cam Side, so let's choose Cam Front. And let's do the same thing over here, 0. This one is on the side, but I'm going to make sure that it always uses the side by pressing that. So all I have to do is, if I'm out here in the world and then I just press 0, and it goes right to the side, and this one will always go to the front. And this will be great for our projections. So we will project our UV maps using the cameras. But as we're modeling, we don't actually need the cameras. We can just press over here, press 3, and over here press 1 and do that, so then we see our grid. One more thing I think I want to do here first is select our empties, and we're going to put our depth now in the back. And this is going to be important for when we add geometry, because when we add geometry in the front of it, you'll be able to see things like the selection outline and all of that. And you can see the grid here too. So if I uncheck, or if I go back to default, the grid goes away. Okay, and then out here we still have our single view, so we'd have to click each of these to change the camera. I think there's a shortcut key for this, but I don't actually remember what it is. And then of course we can still do 1 and 3. Now we also want to probably change this to we don't see the cameras here, so they don't get in our way. There we go. So then 1, 3. Oh, interesting. So 1 and then, okay, so then let's just put an icosphere here for now. So this is 1 and then 3. So if I move this back here like this, then there we go. So that's fine. Perfect. I just want to make sure that if I press 1 and then 3, I can go back and forth, and that should be just fine. Okay, I don't need this icosphere. Let's go into 1. Actually, let's just go here like that, and the split. And we can also add in a cube and scale, move it back and scale it out like this. Go to our viewport display, wire, faces. See what I was talking about? We have to change it in both places. Okay, and now we can do our loop cut, and you can see, hopefully, in the middle of the eyes, and the top of the brow, and the top of the nose, and the bottom of the nose, and the teeth, the chin, top of the head, all line up like they need to. Perfect. Okay, but we don't need this cube anymore. And I think we're ready. Make sure you save it. Okay, so now we are ready to start modeling the Terminator skull with these two images. Now, at least I am. I can't distribute them for you. So in my blend file that you can download, you have these two images that you can work with, which will be the same exact workflow, just with different images. And once again, if you want to get access to all of the freebies downloads, that's the Frenzy Freebies membership. You also get notifications when I have new posts. But if you just want a single one, just go to the freebies, single downloads, and this is the only one there for now. I will add more later, but you can download them one at a time, and you don't have to sign up for a membership. Okay, so with all that done, let's get started modeling in the next video.